Have to be honest that before Amanda Seals did the big interview with Shannon Sharp from Club Shay Shay, I really didn't know who she was or who she is. I don't know her, and I haven't kept up with her work, but the interview with Shannon Sharp revealed a lot about her. And recently, though, there was a content creator that I follow. He posted a video of her, and I was just shocked by some things. I'm going to use some things she said as a springboard to talk about some issues. And she was saying, in a nutshell, I'm going to translate what she's saying, but basically, she was saying that people had almost convinced her to take her own life. And she used a term that she said they almost convinced her that she was an unlikable broad and that she didn't deserve to live. These are her words. Now, I was kind of shocked, and then she goes on to say some other things. One thing that she said that caught my attention was she decided to get on medication, get under a psychiatrist's care and get on medication. And she mentioned that one of her homegirls had said something like, I wish I had known you were going through this, I would have prayed. And she dismissed that as dumb expletive. I'm not going to say the word she said, but she dismissed that prayer. And really, that's the reason why she is the way she is. And that's the root cause of her problems. They're spiritual. And there is power in prayer. Let me tell you, whenever I deal with anything, I have prayer warriors. I call them, I text them, and I'm telling you, they get a prayer through. My life, I'm here on this planet. I've been on this planet for over 60 years, and I'm here because of prayer. So it kind of got my attention. I'm not really going to talk about her. I'm going to talk about the issue, because I have taught quite a few students in the last maybe 10 years who have had suicidal ideations. And I can guarantee you that none of them have completed suicide. None of them will, because really at the heart of a lot of suffering is a lie. The reason why many people don't have peace and they have these inner struggles is because they believe things that are simply not true. It is a fact that the truth can, it may not if you don't totally act on it, but the truth can set you free. Once you know the truth and you understand it and you accept the truth, once you accept the truth and you change your actions based on truth rather than lies, that is how you can have a better life. That's how you can have more peace and more joy in your life. And so I want to try to deal with some things because, again, I'm sort of shocked that Amanda Seals, being a 44-year-old woman, basically blaming people for her suicidal ideations. I'm just absolutely shocked. That is sad. Now, the content creator was sort of rejoicing in her downfall. He was sort of, saying that he was glad that it was happening. I think that's wrong. I don't think we should ever glorify suffering or celebrate calamity. When we see God move on our behalf or move, and deal with people, it's a note. We should make a mental note. Okay, God deals with people. And I have seen that where God has dealt with people. It's not to be happy about, it's just to be a reminder that God will do a better job of dealing with people than we can ever deal with them. And so you have to remember that. But I don't know, we should rejoice and be happy, because if she got on medication, I don't know when this video was made, but I deduced that it was made recently because he just posted it recently. If she's on medication and she's still blaming other people for her suicidal thoughts, that is sick and sad. And so I want to just talk about it. I'm all about light and love, all about trying to get the lessons. What can we learn from this? And I think I want to do this episode where I ask some reflection questions. And these questions are for you to answer. Answer these questions. If you answer them truthfully and honestly, if you spend some time really being honest with yourself, you do not have to answer them with anybody else. This is the kind of work you have to do independently by yourself. And when you answer truthfully, you begin to change what you do based on truth and not lies, then your life can change in a constructive way. So let's get to it. Thank you so much for listening to Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Shree Hardy. I really appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It only takes a few seconds. I appreciate you. You might have heard that the truth hurts, and usually it does. But if we can get beyond our pain, there is gain. And so in this episode, I'm going to ask some questions that we all need to answer, be able to answer honestly. And again, I'm doing this after seeing a post by one of the content creators that I follow. And I was absolutely shocked that Amanda Seals said that people had almost convinced her to end her life because she was an unlikable broad and she didn't deserve to live. And, she goes on to say some other things, which I thought were very sad. So I'm going to try to do this, like I said before, where I ask these questions, you answer them. Um, we all want to feel significant and we want to feel important and we want to feel that we matter. But here's a question that you have to ask yourself: how much does your life really matter? Like, if you're not on this planet today, will the sun stop shining? Will it stop raining? Will the moon stop glowing? And you got to answer yourself that, because the answer to that reveals that we may not be as significant or important as we think we should be. And I know when, people talk about self-esteem and, having pride and feeling good about yourself, it sounds almost self-deprecating when you say you're nothing. And you say, my significance is not that great because I don't determine if the earth is going to rotate on its axis or not. What that should do for many people, that would make them feel bad, and that sounds negative. But for other people who are walking with God, it would make them be humble because it would realize your position. Without humility, you cannot have peace. Because if you want to be more than what you should be, and you think you are more than what you really are, you're not going to have peace. It's always going to be a struggle. And you're really wrestling with God, because there's only one person who made the sun shine and the moon glow and the stars twinkle and the planets and the oceans, and that is God. And when you will not humble yourself to God, when you're trying to be the God, you want to be worshiped and idolized, and you want to be admired, that's when you get into trouble. So that's a question, like, do you want people to idolize you? Do you want people to admire you? Again, we want that. We want the respect. We want people to appreciate us. Well, what happens when they don't? What happens when you're on your job and you're the person and you're working with a high level of excellence, but you don't get the employee of the month, or you don't get teacher of the year, or you don't get doctor of the year, like you don't get the awards, because there is reward and there's award, but you don't get the awards, you don't get the recognition. What does that really mean? Because sometimes the reason why people are so depressed and they got so much struggle, they feel like they deserve more praise and more recognition, and they're not getting it. And so when you are willing to say, you know what, I'm not doing it for the praise, I'm not doing it for the recognition, when you can kind of work through that, I'm doing it for the service. I'm doing it to serve the world while I'm here. You've heard that saying that service is the rent that we pay to be on this earth. And so when you do it as if you're doing it for God, it shifts the focus. You're not doing it for self-aggrandizement. You're not doing it so you can be seen and be lifted up and be glorified. You're doing it because all that matters is God has given you time, and He has given you certain gifts, and you're using them to please and honor Him. And here's the thing: you can't do it without humility. You just simply cannot do it when you understand you're not causing the earth to rotate on its axis, and you got to surrender and bow down to the one who is. For some people, that's a struggle because they want their life to be more valuable than it really is. And that's painful, and that can even sound negative to some people. But if you take it in the right way, it can really humble you, because humility is something you have to have in order to have peace. You're not going to have peace when you're always trying to be better than, and you're trying to be above something. And that's part of the problem with a lot of people. You know, when she said in her comment, when Amanda Seales said something like, I was an unlikable, people made her feel like she was an unlikable broad and that she didn't deserve to live. I started thinking about, how much do we need to have people like us? How much do we need to focus on people liking us? What if people don't like us? Will our feet fall off? Will we go blind? Will we go deaf? How much of our time should we spend focusing on people liking us? Should we even care if people like us? Should that be a thought? Now, ideally, we hope that people would. I know as a teacher, they would tell us, if kids don't like you, they can't learn from you. And that's an old saying. But here's the thing: sometimes you can be a nice person, you can be teaching every day, you can be loving, you can want the best for them. They may not like you. But what does that really mean? And how much should we care about that? Are you on the internet because you want people to like you? And, it's just basic math. Everybody's not going to like you. Maybe somebody will like you or like something about you, but everybody is not. And the question is, why should you care? Why? Why is that so important? These are questions that you got to ask yourself. And are you upset? And the reason why you're so upset with the world and life and everybody is because you can't have your way. As an educator, the one thing that I've learned with working with children, and I'm a mother also, that people have to teach their children, and this can change their lives. They have to understand that they cannot have their way. That anytime you see, whether it's suicide, whether it's homicide, femicide, I don't care what it is, if you pull back the layers and you say, well, why did it happen? You know why it happened? Because that person couldn't have his way, or she couldn't have her way. There are people that are literally ending lives simply because they couldn't have their way. They wanted something that they didn't get. You want people to like you, and they don't like you because they don't like your personality. And if God likes you, it's enough. But let's just say you're doing things to hurt people, whether you think you are or not. You're doing things that you're not called to do, but you feel like God has made you the counselor of the universe, so you have to tell everybody what's wrong with them. They're not going to like you. And so why? And that's another question. Again, I'm asking questions. Why do you feel the need to tell everybody that? I listened to her on Club Shay Shay, Amanda Seales, and she was very critical of a lot of people. Most of her conversation was criticism. And she even got real low. She went below the belt, and she actually got vulgar, and she started calling people names and insulting people. And why? And you know what the real reason was? Because she couldn't have her way with them. There was something she wanted them to do that they didn't do. That's what you have in the news every day. You have people just, in relationships. You have domestic violence situations where they're in a relationship. Even if the man cheats on the woman and she decides, you know what, I don't want to be hurt by that. I don't want to put myself in a position to get a disease or to have somebody come back and try to kill me. I don't want to deal with infidelity. She tries to get out. Next thing you know, this man is trying to kill her because he can't have his way. He can't sleep with other men and women and have her in his life too to keep him going. And you know what? In the news, you have people taking people out or trying to take people out just because they can't have their way. What is it that you want that you don't have? Because whenever there is inner struggle and inner turmoil, it's because somebody wants something that they don't have. That frustration comes from unrequited desire. So there's only two things you can do. If you can get it, get it. If you can't get it, you have to make peace that you're not going to get it. And a lot of people, and this is going to sound strong, they got to make peace that they're not the center of the universe. They really want to be idolized, and they wouldn't say that. If you told them that, they would say you're lying and you're misunderstanding me, but that's what it is. They want to be God. They want to be a goddess. And when there can't be that, when the world doesn't care about them, and it's not that the world doesn't care about them because the world is mean, the world doesn't care about them because they got their own cares. I can't be overly focused on what other people got going on because I got stuff going on. I got so many things that I got to work on in my life. Most people have families, they have jobs, they have financial responsibilities. As I age, you're dealing with your health, you're dealing with a lot of different things. You're not thinking about other people, not like that, because you can't. You may, for what I do, I try to, always try to pray for the world in general, but I have my own issues. So I cannot be overly concerned about somebody else's issues. And I don't expect anybody to really come in and save me. That's not how it works. That's why, and you don't take ownership of your own life. Your happiness is determined by you. Your joy is determined by you. What you have and don't have is not dependent upon somebody else. It's dependent upon you. So for someone who is 44 years old to suggest that other people are responsible for her mental state is scary, because they're not. You got to take full ownership of your life. And while there are things that we can't control that happen to us sometimes, and people on the outside are doing things that we can't, that are beyond our control, we can determine what we feel on the inside. See, there's inner peace and there's external peace, and the ideal is to have both. Sometimes you can't have the outer peace because there are things going on that are beyond your control. But what you can have, no matter what's happening around you, you can have peace on the inside. Now, again, I don't know how you have it without God. She dismissed her friend when the friend said something like, she said, I had a homegirl. And she said, yeah, I would have prayed for you if I had known. And she said, we're not homegirls anymore. And she referred to prayer as dumb, bad word, okay? And that's a lie. See, again, the reason why people suffer is because they don't believe the truth. Prayer is powerful. In fact, prayer is the first thing and the number one thing you have to do to have a relationship and connect spiritually with the Most High God. Prayer is communication with God, listening, speaking, meditating, fellowshipping. Without that, you really cannot be strong spiritually. And that's what the problem is. You dismiss the one thing that you got to have in order to be happy. When Jesus was teaching and he was talking to his disciples, he said, peace I give unto you, my peace, not as the world giveth. Let your heart not be troubled, neither let it be afraid. This peace that you get, that is supernatural, because it comes from a supernatural place and being, is not something you can get from the world. You can't get it from your accomplishments. You can't get it from the things you do, how you look. You can't get it from that. You can't get it from your money. And that's another issue. Does she believe because does she think she's smart? Like, if you think you're smart in an intellectual kind of way, do you think you deserve something special? Because what is real intellect? What is real intelligence? This whole thing about IQ comes up. And because I'm a world language teacher, I spent most of my career teaching French and other languages. I studied a lot of different cultures. And what I learned is that my definition of intelligence prior to me even studying, I thought that it was just book stuff. You make good grades on your tests. No. Was real intelligence that you live in the jungle and you survive. That's intelligence. And not only do you survive, your people have survived for millions of years. You're able to manipulate the harshest environment possible, and that's intelligence. It's not you being able to read a book and analyze it and talk and use good grammar. That's maybe one form of intelligence, and maybe that's the problem. We spend so much time emphasizing that as something special. And I'm an educated, I have a lot of schooling. But what I understand is, what does that really mean? If you drop me off in the middle of the Congo, could I survive? How much are these degrees really worth if I can't be happy? You got to ask yourself that, I have money or I have health or I have all these things. Amanda Seals was born with a lot of blessings, and she still can't be happy. That's dumb. That's not intelligence. That you couldn't find a way. Now, let me just say this about the medication, because I read a book by a psychiatrist. If you haven't read this book, you need to read this book. It's called The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, and it's by Dr. Bruce Perry. I think he's in his 70s now. He's a psychiatrist, and this book is about his first years as a psychiatrist, and he kind of chronicles like different people that he, serviced as a psychiatrist, a young psychiatrist, just getting started in the profession. And in each case that he features, the child had experienced some kind of trauma, like real trauma, as a baby, as a child. And Dr. Bruce Perry was the first one to help me to understand that sometimes people do need medication, and it really is to balance things with their hormones. And that when you go through trauma and you go through these very painful experiences, they do change your body physiological state, your brain. It really does change you physiologically. So medication can stabilize a person. But if Amanda Seals got on medication and she's still getting on the internet telling people that they almost had her in her life, that medication is not working. That psychiatry is not working for her, because she ought to be better now. She should understand that people don't have to like you. And people don't like you usually for a reason. That's not always the case. But a lot of times when people don't like you, it's because you do things that create issues for them. And that's another thing. What is your obligation to people? When she was on the show, she was on Club Shay Shay, she was very critical, and she was talking about the different things she does. And she feels the need to tell everybody what's wrong with them. And the issue with that is, there's a rule in psychology, and it's rule number 1. You never give people advice unless they want it. And another rule that she needs to understand is criticism is a highly ineffective way for change. One of the best ways that you can have an impact on human behavior is to simply walk in excellence. Like when you carry yourself in a way that is with integrity and righteousness and beauty, people want to emulate it. It's like, think about this for a second. Somebody go out the house, they got a really nice hairstyle. You look at it, you're like, it looks good on her. You probably will try to get it done yourself, because that's what's powerful, is example. It's not telling people what's wrong with them. Nobody asks you to tell them what's wrong with them. And that's what I get from the different interviews. Nobody tells you to critique these situations. And who made you? These are questions I got. Who made you the judge and the jury and the counsel of the world to tell people what's wrong, what they need to do better? And you know what they call that? They call that getting real. But if you get real and it's not from righteousness, because she said she dismissed prayer, so it's not from righteousness, it's not going to work. It's not going to be received that way. The other thing is when you don't have a relationship with people, they don't and you haven't really, that old saying, well, people don't care about what you say until they know you care about them. Like if you don't really know people and you don't really care for them, when you're saying something to them, that is going to be transferred. And sometimes people don't feel like you're the person that should tell it. That's why, as a teacher, and it's hard because we're supposed to be teaching children things that they need to know to prepare them for adulthood. What I try my best to do is, rather than telling them what they're doing wrong, I tell them these are the things you need to do and show them examples. But that is because they are children. I'm not talking about adults. I deal with them in a whole different way. People don't want your advice, they haven't asked for it. Then I found, because some people do come to me for advice, I found that when you give them advice, they don't want to hear it anyway. Because sometimes they're coming to you because they want cosigners. But that's what you got to ask yourself. What is my purpose? Is my purpose to go around critiquing people, telling them what they're doing wrong, and like that's going to help? And then here's another question. What are you doing for the world? Like, is your purpose just how do you serve the world? How do you serve God? How do you do it? Is it, because everybody does it in different ways. Some people, again, we do it as teachers, you do it as doctors, lawyers, you do it as other medical professionals, nurses, psychiatrists, you do it as accountants. How do you do it? Because if just, and I went back and I did some research because I didn't know about her, but she was an actress. Do you do it by being a pretender? Because that's what actresses do, they pretend. Is that how you serve the world? Well, if that's how you serve the world, you got to understand that that may not have the same value that other people have in the world. Usually when a person, because she said they made her seem like she was an unlikable broad, okay? Usually when people are unlikable, it is because of what they say. There's an old scripture and it's something like, he who guards his mouth keeps himself from trouble. Can you be silent when you want to say something? Again, I'm trying to ask reflection question. Can you be silent? There are times in my life when I see something wrong or I don't see something that I think a person should do. And this is a person that I love, but I've learned, rather than me saying something because they're not ready to receive it, I learned how to be silent. If I really feel, and I ask God, do you want me to say something? If you do, God, anoint my tongue, touch their ears, show me the timing, because sometimes it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. It's about timing. But if you're walking around on the planet feeling like you're the counsel of the world or you the judge of the world, and you got to tell everybody everything that's wrong, let me tell you, you will be an unlikable broad. And guess what? You can't be mad at anybody for not liking you. And that's another thing. Are you upset because people don't like you? You willing to take your life because of how people feel about you? Do you have anybody in your life who does like you? And this is another thing. You've noticed that some people suffer because they got a group of people over here who love them. It may be two people, but those two people love them with everything. But instead of them focusing on those two people who love them, they're worried about the 1,000 strangers who don't. It's a phenomenon to me. I see it a lot as a teacher. You got a group of students and everybody has their little tribe or their little clique. Oh, group A would love you. That group A would accept you just as you are. But instead of them wanting to hang out with group A, they want to hang out with group B, who despises them, who thinks they're nothing. We have to learn how to shift our focus and celebrate the people who celebrate us and who love us and who appreciate us and who value us. Everybody is not going to do it. When I was growing up, there was a saying, and I heard this over and over and over again. You're blessed if you get 2 or 3 friends in real life. In your lifetime, if you had 2 real friends, You're blessed. Two? That's right, two. Because I learned that friendship is not about you just having people to hang out with. A real friend is someone who's going to be there when you need them. You may not talk. My best friend, I don't talk to her every day. We live in two different states, but we talk, and when we do, we can. But if every time I've been in a situation and I've needed her, she's been there. She's been there for me. That's how we became friends. And I've tried to be there for her. And that's what real friendship is about. You being liked by the world is not a goal. It is not a goal. In fact, some would argue, if the world is liking you, can you be friends with the world and still be friends with God? There's a conflict because there are two realms working at all times. There is the carnal world, and then there's God's world. And we are to be in the world, but not of the world, meaning that the world is filled with all kinds of dark stuff. We got to be in here, but guess what? We don't have to be of it. So I can't be concerned about whether or not the people of the world love me or like me. What we have to do is let God lead us to do what He has called us to do, and then let it go. Somebody may like it, somebody may not like it. People may appreciate it, others may not even think about it. And all of this really is rooted in humility. Because when you're humble, you're not trying to elevate yourself, you're not trying to be above. We can't share the glory with God. That's hard for some people. You may not get recognition. Your name may not be mentioned in the speech. You may not be the one that they think is all that and everything. That doesn't mean anything as long as you are in right standing with the Most High God. How God sees you is above everything. And if you do right, some people will like you. So many people may like you, but many may not. I feel for like these entertainers and celebrities. They have, big groups of fans, but then they have people that just hate them. They have people that just, they just don't like them, right? And that just comes with life. As a writer, I remember when I, wrote my first novel, and I had a few reviews on Amazon, and it was a very powerful lesson. Art is subjective. Some people will read your book and they may think it's great, and some people may not think it's great. And they're not being haters because they don't like you, or they didn't like that book, or they didn't like that movie. They just don't like it because we're all different. 8 billion people on the planet, and every single human being has a different set of fingerprints. We're not meant to be the same. Therefore, everybody is not going to like one person. And it has nothing to do with them being mean. It has nothing to do with them being a troll. It just means they don't like you because they don't like you, because they're different. And we cannot use our energy to focus on those who don't like us and appreciate us. We need to focus on the people who do. And I'm sure that Amanda Seals, even if it's just her mother, even if it's just a family member, she's got some people that love her, but she's probably not focused on them enough. And I want to say this: do we have to say everything? Because I watched the interview with her and Shannon Sharp, and she was saying some things that I thought, like when she was talking about her teacher, like, you don't have to say that. And she might feel like, well, I should say it, and it's backwards if I can't say what I want to say. And you can. But here's the thing: you got to be able to deal with the consequences of that. And that's the thing that you got to ask yourself. Again, we're dealing with reflection questions. Can I handle the consequences of my actions? If I do A, can I accept what's going to follow? Because we can choose our actions, but we cannot choose the response. We cannot choose the consequences. And if you did it, you have to accept the consequences. Thinking about the very tragic case of Carmelo Anthony, he made a decision that has changed not only his life, but his family's life. His family has had to move a couple of times. His parents have lost their jobs. His siblings are now being threatened. Like that one decision that he made, because it was a choice he didn't have to make, but he made it, regardless of the circumstances. Because other boy made some decisions too. His decision changed everything too. So both sides. But that's what you got to understand. When you open your mouth and you criticize people, there's a consequence for that. Most people are already dealing with so much. Criticism only makes them feel worse. So that old saying about people will never forget, they'll forget what you say and they'll forget what you did, but they won't forget how you made them feel. That's a big deal. Because if you make people feel bad because of negative criticism, which is, again, I'm going to say this, I've done podcasts on this. Negative criticism is a totally ineffective way to change behavior. I'm telling you what I know, not what I think as a teacher. I've seen it. I remember my daughter was in college and she has a degree in psychology. But I remember she called me one day and she was like, Mom, how did you know all this stuff about psychology? You didn't, you don't have formal training. I said, because I teach. I get to see how humans develop. I get to see how humans become how they become. And I'm telling you what I know. If you are a person and you open your mouth and most of your talk is negative criticism and you got to respond in a negative way every time somebody says something you don't like or you don't agree with, you just want to say what you want to say, trust and believe you're going to have a very small group of people who like you, if they like you at all. Should you end your life because people don't like you? Should you want to end your life or anybody else's because you can't have your way? Because that's what it is. Oh, I can't have my way. I want to do this. I can't do it. I want to have this. I can't have it. I want attention. And I want to end with this. One of the things that teaching has helped me to do is understand myself. Because I grew up with a lot of challenges, in the projects, dysfunctional home, all those kind of things. And I realized that I was a very broken person at a certain point in my life. And I started teaching, and what teaching helped me to do is understand the cause and effect, the whys. And it really helped me to grow. And one of the things I realized that people need is attention. Attention is not something that you might have. You need it. You actually need attention. But what you need is attention in the right way. But this is what happens to some people when they don't get attention and they're not getting it in the right way and they don't understand what attention is and what it does, they'll always be trying to get it. They'll always be searching for the applause and the praise. And then what happens when they don't get it, especially if they feel like they deserve it? Some people don't struggle with that. Like, if nobody likes me, I'm not thinking anybody should like me, or nobody's looking at me, I don't think they should look at me. But some people actually believe because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they should be getting a certain amount of attention. And when they don't get it, it causes this disruption in them, this chaos, this struggle. And that's the part of the problem too, is what happens when you don't get attention from human beings the way you think you should. And I'm going to go back to this because at the end of the day, everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we believe, everything we think and feel starts with something spiritual. We are not just physical human beings. We're not just cells and arteries and veins and muscles. We're not just that in organs. We are also spiritual. And if you take care of everything else and you don't take care of the spiritual part, you'll never be happy. There are people who are beautiful. They are rich. They have privilege and opportunities that a lot of people may not have. And yet they're still unhappy because that one part is disconnected. And that disconnection is with the Most High God. Just like, and I use my laptop all the time. I use this analogy all the time. My laptop is hooked up to the electrical outlet. If I remove the cord, The laptop will work for a while, but at a certain point, it's going to cut completely off. And that's what happens to us spiritually. You're cut off because you won't be connected. If you dismiss prayer, if you think prayer is stupid, then you really jacked up. You are really, really going to be jacked up, because talking to God is the first and the most powerful thing you can do to have the best life possible. To have, I'm talking about real joy. And it can be a thunderstorm outside, but on the inside, you have a peace that surpasses all understanding, that the world can't give to you and the world cannot take away. And that's because of that connection. That, and even in the natural, we are close to people that we communicate with, that we talk to. And the more we talk to them, the more we interact with them, and we have experiences with them, the closer we become. And it's the same way with God. And if you don't do anything, you have to talk to God every day, all day. You have to fellowship with Him. You have to listen to God. You have to meditate on God and let Him direct your path. And He'll tell you, I need you what to read, where to go, how to get there, what not to read, who not to be around, what to watch. God will lead you in these beautiful places. And I'm not telling you what I think, I'm telling you what I know. I am a witness that God can heal your mind and He can heal your heart. If you're trying to heal it, again, I'm not saying anything about medication, because I read the book, Changed My Life, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. I recommend you getting it and reading it. And the way he talked about medication, okay, it helped me to understand your brain goes through some things and you deal with them things when you had a traumatic event. And clearly Amanda Seales has gone through some things, and it can really change you chemically. So it's not to dismiss that, because God made the human body and He made everything to work in a certain way. And then because He gives people free will, people use that free will to hurt themselves and others. And so that's why we have a lot of pain and suffering in the world. But God will heal you. And it's not even something you could explain with logic, because it's spiritual. It's inexplicable. It's incomprehensible, because it's God. Because His ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. He's above us. You can't, if you could understand everything, and that's what the problem is, people want to be a God, then you wouldn't even need God. But there is a certain amount of mystique that you would never understand. You just know that He's real. You don't have to understand, because you know that He's real. You know that He's enough. And that's the beauty of it all. And I hope that anybody listening to this episode will get that. They will have inner peace, because I believe peace is the greatest blessing from God. I'm telling you, I know people with money. I knew a person, they had just bought a big, beautiful home. They were trying to figure out how they could get a bigger home. They couldn't be happy because they didn't have peace. And inner peace is different from outer peace, because sometimes you can't have outer peace. Sometimes, I can create outer peace at home, but on my job, there are circumstances and situations that I can't control. And I can't control what other people do, but I can control what I do and how I respond. And that's how but I can't do it on my own. That's how I have to say this. I can't do it on my own. We can't take our next breath without the Most High God. It's amazing to me how people just dismiss God, and they diminish Him and reduce Him to just like a cosmic force. He's more than that. He really is a father if you need a father, a mother if you need a mother, a friend, a brother, a sister. He really is that wheel in the middle of the wheel. He really is joy. I'm telling you, not what I think, what I know. And I just wish and hope that this young lady, she would get it. When you got to go online and tell people, you say aloud that people almost made you commit. No, you almost made you commit yourself, your choices, your beliefs, your lack of faith. That's what made you almost do it. Your desire to seek out public validation. Y'all, if you need the public to validate you, people on this internet, then you're going to be messed up. Because once you get on here, there are going to be people who could maybe think you're wonderful, and there are going to be people who hate your guts. And they don't think you're great at all. And that's okay. They have a right to think that way. You don't have to try to change their minds. You have to accept that. That's why, I don't have a lot of social media. I do have a personal Facebook page. And one day I posted something, and it was about the coach from South Carolina and the situation that happened. And I think it kind of caused them to lose that championship. And to make a long story short, I made a post about it. And I normally don't make posts like that on my public page. And I had some negative comments. Do you think I responded? I just let them say that. If they want to remove them themselves, I'm not going to respond. Because guess what? People have a right to think what they think. And even if they're trolls, believe it or not, they have a right to be a troll. They have a right to do it. I'm not using my good energy to deal with negative things. And here's the last thing that you need to know, and I hope that you will get this. You have to take full ownership of your life. See, you'll always be a victim if somebody else has the power to determine what you have and don't have. If other people can control how you feel about yourself, about anything, then you are going to be jacked up because you're going to be powerless. You're always in a subservient state and a dependent state when you do not take ownership of your own life. Can you control what other people are doing? No. Can you stop them from believing certain things or saying no? But what you can do, and this is a God-given divine gift, you can choose how you're going to respond. You can make the choice that no matter what somebody is saying to you, you're going to be happy anyway. When I realized that my life was a result of my own choices, not what somebody else did, and I let some people do some things, and then I want to make them the villain of the story. Well, no, they weren't the villain. I was the villain because I let them do what they did. I betrayed my own self and let that person do what he did and let him come in and out. No, did that because I had a right to choose. If I had known, I know now, I could have said, no, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't let myself live in a situation where I'm hurting, and I don't have to. When you take ownership and you stop blaming others and you realize and you let others be, don't try to control what they do, but you try to monitor what you do. You control how you're going to respond. Let me tell you, you will have freedom. You will be so free, and it will just it's like you had a big old weight on your shoulder, and it weighed 1,000 pounds, and somebody took that weight and they lifted it off of your shoulder. You're free. I don't have to do certain things if they're going to cause harm to me. A person can try, and people will, but guess what? I don't have to accept it. How I respond is what's going to determine how my life is. And I'm not saying this is easy all the time. What I'm talking about is hard. It's hard to be humble. It's hard to be the one and you knew you helped a person and they never even said thank you. They never acknowledged you, but you knew that you were the one that helped them in a way that without your help. But guess what? God gets the glory and God gives the reward. You don't have to, you just keep doing what is right and you don't worry about what people think or not think. And if you have not physically done anything to them or verbally or any kind of way done something to them, then you just let God deal with them. Because your toes will not, my students laugh because I would tell them, your toes ain't going to fall off. You're not going to go blind because somebody doesn't like you. You're not going to die because people do not like you and approve of how you are. Now, if you are a person with some bad ways, Use the feedback you're getting to try to grow and get better. These reflection questions are, I gave them because they can help you if you answer them honestly. Remember, a lot of suffering involves lies. You can't get freedom until you get the truth and you accept the truth and you act on the truth. Well, this concludes this episode, beautiful people. Just a summary and recap of this episode. Number one, you have to understand that a lie is causing your suffering. And once you get the truth and you accept the truth and you respond to life with the truth, you can be free. Number two, you have to take full ownership of your life. Yes, other people can do things to you. They can say things. They can try to literally hurt you. How you respond is going to determine the end result. If you're going to be happy or unhappy, you're going to be healthy or unhealthy, you're going to have joy or have sadness. You can't control anybody but yourself. And once you take full ownership of your life, you can truly be free. You have to ask yourself some really serious questions. How important are you? What do you do when you can't have your way? What's really causing your frustration and pain? Is it because you can't have your way? And if there's something you want in your life that you do not have, you only have two choices. Can you get it? Or can you make peace that you don't have it or you can't get it? And number three, another point, and this is critical. What is your relationship with the one who made you? We're here because of a divine power. I cannot take my next breath without God. He could, if God decided to call me on today, that's it. There's nothing I can do. When we surrender to the one who made us, to the one who has all the power, that is when we can be humble. And only when we're humble and not trying to exalt ourselves and not trying to navigate with self-importance, that's when we can truly have peace. We resign as counselor of the universe, as superwoman for the world and the galaxy. We got to surrender to the one with the power because we don't have it. Whatever we have is finite. It is limited. It is really nothing. And that's hard. That's so hard. And it sounds negative when you say, I'm just a granule of sand. I'm just a blade of grass. I'm here and I'm gone tomorrow. I remember I had a coworker. She was a young person. She was probably in her mid to late 30s when she died. And one day I saw her, and the next day she was gone. She died in her sleep. Had a young son. And I remember I just wanted life to stop. Like I wanted to grieve her, and I didn't have time. I wanted life to stop, and it didn't. And there was a retired teacher, and she was a sub at our school. And I was lamenting to her that why can't we just stop and just pause and just have a moment? And she said, life has to go on. When you think about that, that humbles you, because when I leave this earth, it is going to continue to rotate on its axis as if I didn't even exist. Nothing's going to change. And yes, there may be some people who love me and who will miss me, but how significant am I if I don't control the sun? I don't control the stars. Really? How significant? And when you realize just who you are in the context of God and you humble yourself and you stop trying to seek self-importance, self-recognition, and glory, that's when you can be free, because you're never going to share the glory of God. God gets that glory all by himself. All you got to do is create a good story and use your story, your life, as an example of light and love. And I'm telling you, when you do that, some of that depression will leave. Now, if you have a chemical imbalance, that's different. But many people are struggling with issues, not because of a mental imbalance. It's just that they can't have their way. They want something that they feel like they deserve and they can't get it. They want something because they want it, and it's not going to happen for whatever the reason. And because they just cannot make peace about not having it, they feel like they gotta just end it all, either themselves or somebody else. And that's really sad, but that's it. When you pull back all the layers, it's true. Lady killed herself because she didn't get a job she thought she deserved. People kill others because they want things from people that they were never meant to give in the first place. At the end of the day, you got to make peace with not having your way. And I wasn't trying to rhyme. Anyway, beautiful people, thank you again for listening to Bad Thought Therapy. Take care.